The thing about Jimi Hendrix to me is his vision is so strong. Aside from being a masterful guitar player, the vision of what he heard, the guitar became incidental. That's what I hear when I hear him at Woodstock. You know, you hear babies crying, you hear bombs, you hear, you know, babies being born, eagles flying, clouds moving. You know, you hear things that people don't normally hear nowadays, because he always had his finger on the pulse of life. You know, that's why I say certain musicians, when they play life.
Somebody had a tape recorder, and they was like, "That's Jimi Hendrix." And I had a couple of shots, you know, and I'm trying to get me one of these hippie gals. You know, that's exactly what I said. I said, "Get out of my damn way. Who in the hell is Jimi Hendrix?" And he started waving and plugging up his wah-wah pedal. He said to me, he said, "I just canceled a gig. I want to get a chance to play with you. I'm Hendrix." I said, "Who in the hell is that?" And somebody said, "That's Hendrix, man.
Be cool, dude.
Be cool, Henry, yeah." So I finally stopped playing, and he plugged it up and went to work on it. And I said, "Well, maybe I should know you then." And from that day on, we came on, because we had some conversations together after that. And that was like about maybe 2.5 years before he passed away.
And I remember seeing him for the first time on film and just getting blown away by what he was doing. I mean, he was playing fantastic lead guitar. He was playing crunchy chords with a distorted sound. And when he went into a solo, I mean, he just ripped the top of your head off. But not only that, he had the attitude, he had the look. He was a showman. He had a lot of different aspects to his playing. He played very melodically. He played really, really rude at times. He had a blues background. I mean, to me, at that point, he was everything. Yeah. And
he'd been in England, I think, about a week, and they'd just got the experience together. And he had the club on his feet, you know, from the word go. They couldn't believe it. It was just solid musicians, the whole club, you know. He was incredible. He really was. And he had such he rehearsed 2 days, and he had like an hour and a half act of great songs, and the band was together. Still, he could have been up there on his own. You know, he didn't really need anybody else. He could play on his own and do it perfectly.
His tastes were exactly what I would want in another musician. You know, like the blues and the where it came from, and also he had this fantastic imagination for what you could do with it.
The night that he died, I was supposed to meet him at the Lyceum to see Sly Stone play, and I brought with me a left-handed Stratocaster. And it's the only I've just found it. I think I bought it at Orange Music. I'd never seen one before, and I was going to give it to him. And he was in a box over there, and I was in a box over there, and I could see him, but I couldn't. We never got together. And the next day, whack, he was gone, and I was left with that left-handed Stratocaster.
Here was a guy that was doing things with the Fender Stratocaster guitar that was turning it inside out in ways the inventors never even imagined. He was that inventive. And he was a bit shy off stage, but when the lights went on, he came aglow, and man, he would set about doing things with that guitar that were just otherworldly.
London, like back in those crazy days, it would have been around about 1969, 1970, there was the UFO Club and all this kind of underground movement. Was it an exciting place to be creative and to be making music in?
Fantastically much so, yes. I mean,
would you literally walk into a club and there'd be Jimi Hendrix and John Lennon and Brian Jones and that kind of thing?
That would be very common. There were clubs, you know, where you could rely on people turning up and doing stuff. I mean, the Speakeasy, which was the sort of musicians' club of the day, would have Hendrix jamming, Clapton jamming, all the time. A club called Blazes in South Kensington, where I saw Jimi Hendrix first time in 1966. It was a pretty exciting time. I mean, the first time seeing Hendrix jamming with the Brian Auger Trinity with Julie Driscoll in '66 was one of those high defined moments, snapshots of history that you can say I was there. It was just amazing.
Some girlfriend rang up and said, "You got to hear this guy Jimi Hendrix." And I went, "Oh, really?" She said, "Yeah, I was at a club last night. It's unbelievable." And I went, "Oh, thanks. That's all you want to hear first thing in the morning, isn't it? Someone's outrageous guitar playing." So I went along to see Hendrix at Blazes. It was unbelievable. Great. It was like a bomb blowing up in the right place. And I just went away from there thinking I better think of something else to do. I followed him around a bit, and he'd heard of me, which is, I couldn't believe, and he said, "What's that let you play?" And happenings 10 years time ago, he said, "I swiped that on this." And I thought, wait a minute, this is really incredible. This is kind of like we could talk music now, not instead of like he's a immovable force, I can actually get some inspiration. And he was a great source of inspiration. The fact that he was doing things so upfront and so wild and unchained.
I go over to the amplifier and I kneel on the ground and I pray to the ghosts of guitarists past, and I want to be that, And I say, I wish I could be like Jimi Hendrix. But Jimi Hendrix died at 27 years old, so I don't want to be like Jimi Hendrix. I know it's weird, it's awkward, you don't want to scream for that because you're supposed to scream for Jimi Hendrix, and I'm just saying that maybe I won't reach that. Maybe I'll never get that freaky. Maybe I'll never be that linked up to that other thing. But the older I get, you know what? The more I don't want to be linked up to that other thing. I want to play the best guitar I can play and still love myself and my friends around me when I go to bed at night, And yeah, I'm not as good, but I'm very thankful that I'm just good enough to play the guitar and have some people show up, but not so good that I see things that aren't there, you know what I mean?
Nice. Hendrix, right? Well, you can even look at Hendrix, and that was, although strangely enough, there's some revisionist history on Hendrix because Hendrix was a fairly soft player. He was just loud. Eddie Kramer, who was Hendrix's producer, was in the studio across from me one time and was playing me the solo tracks from Band of Gypsies,
which is the best thing ever.
And we all have it wrong. Every guitar player has it wrong. It ain't that crunchy. It's not that distorted. It's actually pretty glassy. It's just loud, but it's his control of it that's pushing.
It's happening. Yeah.
Jimmy was quiet when I met him. When I saw him, he didn't drink. He didn't drink or smoke or anything. And I wasn't drinking that much then. So we go in the dressing room and we just sit in there. Like two stools in there. So finally he says, "BB, I've been listening to you for a while." Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, "Really?" Mm-hmm. And then he told me his name. But I noticed he was left-handed. He didn't play like we do.
Yeah.
He's left-handed. Play this. No. Yeah, this way. Mm-hmm. And so I was asking him, why didn't you change the strings?
Yeah.
And he said, well, this is just the way I learned. And that's how I met Jimmy. Mm-hmm. And he was a very nice, I thought he was,
yes,
very
he
nice
was.
person, very nice. And I heard no more from him until after he had gone to England. And that's when I started hearing Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy. Yeah. And so who it was, and yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
But I never did get a chance to speak to him again.
And the day that Hendrix died, I was suited up to practice with the football team, and I was just about to go on the field, and some other teammate came up and said that he heard that some guy named Jimi Hendrix died, and he thought I was into this Hendrix guy, and I should know about it. And I quit the football team right then and there, and decided I was going to devote my life to guitar. and went home and announced it to my family over dinner. That was an exciting moment.
Brian May here. Ask me the question, who is my rock god? It's easy. It's Jimi Hendrix, who, in my opinion, cannot have been from this planet. It's something extraordinary from some other place in the cosmos. And if they all play guitar like that out there, I want to go there. Yeah, he will always be my hero, my rock god, without a doubt. I wish he was around today. I wonder what he would have been doing.
But Eric was much closer to Jimmy than I was. And I felt in a way that perhaps this was because Jimmy felt he had the edge on Eric. But that he couldn't quite make me out, you know. In a stranger position, I felt incredibly competitive with Jimmy. I felt, okay, he is great. He is a genius. There is a fantastic aura about the man. But if I really let him whip me too much, I'll never really be able to ever play again, you know, so I must fight back, as it were.
And it was that Jimmy went on before The Who. And I took Derek aside and I said, you know, this is wrong. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, you know, Jimi Hendrix is got to be the most profoundly important artist of this generation. I don't think it would be appropriate for The Who to follow Jimi Hendrix. You know, he should be on after us.
What it really is that there's only one Jimi Hendrix. There'll never be another one. I just do my best to do what I can to carry his music on just as much as anybody else's music that I've really appreciated all my life. I love him. I love him as like it's, you know, my brother.
I had written in articles at that time that I thought what should be done, since he wasn't musically literate, he couldn't write it down himself, that he should be put in some sort of working relationship with somebody who could write his ideas and have them scored for instruments other than the electric guitar. And I think that would have been something worthwhile to do, but you know, he was too busy doing other things to ever sit down and take that approach.
Hendrix was just otherworldly. To me, his style was so indicative of his personality because him and the guitar were sort of one. He had just a way of knowing where these notes were, and he would drape his fingers over the strings in such a way that he knew exactly what he was hitting and what he shouldn't be hitting. But if you look at the way that he formed chords, they were sort of uniquely or unique to him.